This book is dedicated to anyone who has struggled for any reason to be who they naturally and truly are. No matter what that reason may be, this is for you. Thank you.
Always believe in yourself and do your best.
Chapter 1. Humble Beginnings. My name is Mike Alder. I am a photographer, a guitarist, and an all-around creative person. Creativity is what I consider to be my superpower. My Clark Kent job is a field service engineer for a technology company. I've been in the technology industry at this point for over 13 years. I was born in Kansas City, Kansas in 1975. Yes, I realize I'm old. You can look at it that way, or you can look at the glass half full angle. I was around to see the 80s, a time that will forever be remembered as one of the best decades ever in the United States. I saw the birth and demise of MTV. I saw Michael Jackson moonwalking and Run DMC doing Walk This Way with Aerosmith. I saw Madonna's career from the beginning. I saw rock and roll and hip hop music back when they were fun and had messages and were the voice of an entire generation. When they were both powerful and rebellious and were the lightning in a bottle for my generation. I realize older people will describe groups from their era the same way, and younger people too. But in this book, it is all about my childhood. I sat Indian style and watched the Smurfs and He-Man, Spider-Man and his amazing friends, Transformers, Different Strokes and Webster, Night Court and Alf, just to name some of the shows that were popular when I was little. For the really young people, these names may not ring a bell, but for my Generation X friends, they know exactly that feeling of the 80s that I'm speaking of. I grew up on a block in Kansas City, Missouri that is now in a neighborhood considered rough. The street is gang territory now. As a kid, I didn't get involved in that part of the neighborhood. Thankfully, I moved out at the end of my 5th grade year. Had I stayed, I more than likely would have got caught up in the street life at least to some degree. I am very thankful to my mother, who instilled a strong sense of right and wrong inside of me, which to this very day I still remember and do my very best to live by each and every day. One can never forget the area that he or she grew up in. It is very much a part of you and will forever be just that. As a kid, I never had any issues interacting with people. I have always had friends, and kids don't think much about anything but playing and having fun when they are young. That is the essence of childhood. That is what most of us as parents fight so hard to protect and give to our offspring. For your child to have a great childhood, one that is better than the one you had, is the goal of many mothers and fathers. I want my son to have a better childhood than I had. That would make me feel like a successful parent. All I needed was my Transformers in front of me and my Saturday morning cartoons on the TV, and I was golden. A bowl of cereal was the icing on the cake. Yes, those were the days. No worries, no responsibilities, no drama, no stress, and nothing weighing heavy on the brain. Just a kid with his toys, his siblings, and his imagination. When I started school in Kansas City, I was probably a normal kid. I went to a grade school called Francis Willard, named after the educator. It was in the middle of a fairly rough neighborhood. I would go to school, come home and do my homework, and then go outside and have fun with my friends. I had school clothes, and when I went home, I had to change into my play clothes. That definitely included shoes. It was kind of like the TV show Everybody Hates Chris. We were a low-income family, scraping by off my single mom's income. I had 3 siblings, 1 younger brother, Aaron, and 2 older sisters, Angela and Andrea, all of whom are thankfully still alive today at the time of this writing. Kansas City was a very rough city and could have easily taken any one of us under. Most people from inner cities know the feeling of a dangerous city. Most people do whatever they can to find a way out of it. My mom was an incredible mother, and I have nothing but praise and admiration for the way she brought me up. She separated from my biological father when I was very young. I mean, very young. I may have been 2 or 3. He was a veteran of the Korean War, and upon his return, he was not ready for the pressures of a relationship. When he came back, according to my mother, he was never the same as he was prior. I imagine he had to do some terrible things when he was there. He drank much more and smoked marijuana all day, every day, and would rather party than to participate in the family he helped create. Like many other inner city children, I became fatherless very early on. That in itself is not the main focus of this book, but it is much a part of who I am as Kansas City itself. He passed away in 2008, and I really never got to learn anything about him. Whether broken relationships like this contribute to introversion, that is something I don't know. It is something, however, that helps shape you into the person you ultimately become in life. Another brick in the wall of your life, to quote Pink Floyd. As a single mother, I remember my mom doing as much as she could to help keep us involved in many extracurricular activities. In other words, she did her best to make sure that we had a great childhood. Though we were pretty poor, we still had a caring mom. One of the activities, which I even find hard to believe, was we learned swimming lessons at a local YMCA. Stereotypically, inner city kids, especially those of color, are not swimmers. I've laughed about the stereotypical black people can't swim jokes for a lot of my life. It is a myth, however. If I fell off a boat, there is no way I'm not surviving. Unless I hit my head on something or there are sharks biting me, you had better believe if land is a mile or 2 away, I am surviving. Or if help is less than a couple of hours away, I will tread water until they get there and live to tell my story on the news. Gymnastics was another one that me and my brother were pretty good at. We wanted to be involved in whatever we thought was cool. Before I finished grade school, my mom met my soon-to-be stepfather, one of the greatest people on God's green earth. He was a Kansas City native currently in the U.S. Navy. He was from Kansas City, but was stationed in San Diego, California. They dated and soon decided to take their relationship to the next level. We all packed up and moved to California. That was the first traveling I had ever really done. I was going to do 6th grade in a California school. I was young and very excited. My friends in Kansas City were very happy for me. Well, as happy as 5th graders can be seeing their friend move away. I remember being really excited to go. My sister, she wasn't so excited about it. My brother Aaron was mildly excited about it. For me, I knew I would love traveling, and still to this day I do. I love to people watch and see different areas of this incredible world. It truly inspires me to see different people in different places and things, and that includes art, photography, and music. As of the writing of this chapter, I have yet to go out of the country. I have seen roughly 10 states and crossed the border into Tijuana once when I was in the 6th grade. It is my understanding that you need a passport to make that trip now. I do, however, have my passport and plans to go out of the country to Singapore in exactly 29 days from today. I am very excited. Some people have a fear of making friends, but at that young point in my life, I most definitely did not. I could mingle with any kids and quickly make friends. I didn't even have to think about it. It came just as natural as breathing. Even to this day, I think about how I had no inhibitions or fear or an ounce of hesitation when it came to approaching others and making friends. From being a child to an adult, meeting people for me is night and day, a completely different ballgame. As of about the age of 25 or so, I realized I was an introvert. In the subsequent chapters, I will discuss how I believe introversion has affected me, positive and negative, and what I do to maintain as a creative introvert. In the subsequent chapters, I will discuss how I believe introversion has affected me, positive and negative, and what I do to maintain as a creative introvert. I have always been a creative guy. I was a vocalist in a rap group many, many moons ago. I picked up a guitar for the first time in 6th grade. That didn't last very long, but it is worth mentioning since later in life I picked one back up and love the instrument now like a member of my own family. When I moved from Kansas City to San Diego for the 6th grade, my neighbor was in a band. He was an amazing guitarist. He was really into Guns N' Roses at the time. I remember him in his garage playing Slash solos. He had all the effects pedals and knew how to play them just like Slash did. I begged my parents to buy me a guitar, which they eventually did. I remember taking it to his house and having him check it out. He asked me if he could see it and played on it for a minute. I was mesmerized and went home and practiced. Eventually, I put it in the closet and wouldn't mess with it for years. But as an introvert with a creative side, guitar playing would become a big part of who I am. Introversion is a personality trait. It is one of the main personality traits defined amongst human beings. The focus for introverts is more inward turning to deal with moods, feelings, thoughts, and inner conflicts. I myself tend to spend more time alone and deal with my issues within as opposed to being out in public with larger crowds. I can mingle with crowds on occasion with friends, and it is definitely something that I enjoy doing. If I was asked my preference, however, it would always be my choice to sit alone and complete tasks or to think or watch TV or whatever else I choose to do. Introverts charge their batteries by being away from others. Extroverts charge their batteries by being around people. So extroverts are the exact opposite. According to theory, every person in the world has a degree of both within them. I agree because I know that from experience. I can go on a stage and perform for thousands of people and feel minimal stage fright. But at the same time, it is very difficult for me to strike up conversations or speak with 5 or less people in a business meeting at times. The way I conquered this fear was to know my material inside and out and to practice it multiple times. These are the types of things you have to learn when you're an introvert like me. Other personality traits matter to me less than these two because these are the two that I have. Being an introvert can hold you back if you let it. It can affect your relationships, your job, your friendships, and even your day-to-day life in society. I cannot tell you how many times I walked through a mall or a museum or been at a bar or a park or a social gathering and felt the urge or impulse to talk to someone. It could be a male or a female and be for business or pleasure. The introvert within will definitely at times come out and cause me not to speak to a person I definitely want to speak with. I've always had small groups of friends and never have been the one to be the life of the party. Even in my days as a music artist in a rap band in my early 20s, I still would leave after performances and or parties to go be alone with my thoughts and to write lyrics. Is that the introvert in me? I don't know. One of the other band members was the same way. He is now another creative introvert. He is an artist who paints and sculpts and writes poetry. Apparently, introversion does not stop creativity. Like I said before, as a younger man, I never had any issues talking to people or basically going up to anyone and doing or saying anything. The introversion became apparent later in my life. My estimate would be in my mid-20s. I started to become more and more withdrawn from people and started to look more inside of myself for my own thoughts on situations. At the same time, I became more and more artistic. As a person that is somewhat withdrawn, you have much time to do private activities. My favorites ended up being photography, video editing, and guitar playing. I tried to play the piano also, but didn't end up getting further than learning a few songs that I especially liked. I keep my keyboard in the garage and refuse to sell it or get rid of it, mostly because I want my son to learn on it. Many of my family members are also musically inclined. Bloodlines can carry gifts that get passed to many people in the family. Have you ever seen a family band or heard of the Allman Brothers or Oasis or the Jackson 5 maybe? I got the musical and creative gene that is in my family blood. My cousin is an incredible bass player. I have another cousin that's an incredible drummer. My brother is a great guitar player, and my sister can sing like no other. I remember vividly as we grew up, she sang and danced like a professional. The goal of this writing is to reach out to other creative introverts, especially the younger ones that struggle with being comfortable with who they are. It doesn't make you a bad or strange person that you would rather spend a Friday night in your room or on the couch alone. If I had it to do all over again, I would rather have a better knowledge of self and would be more at ease with my withdrawn personality and would have worried a lot less about feeling like a weirdo or been more at peace with the fact that I wanted to do something creative in seclusion. To create something is a beautiful thing to me, or to learn a song on an instrument or to take a magnificent photo gets my juices flowing. That is who I am. Your significant other may have an issue with your introversion, but hopefully you find an understanding person who is willing to work with you through your times that you feel the need to be alone or to not be out in groups of large people. Sporting events, parades, grocery stores, and even family events have at times been difficult to attend for me due to my introversion. I have even pulled up to places and sat in the car, building myself up to go inside. Even places knowing that those inside have nothing but love and admiration for me. It took some time for me to get over things like that, but I have gotten over the hump. It is possible to manage a fun life as a creative introvert. Welcome to my book about doing just that. You are now my friend. And that can be a big deal when an introvert tells you that.